Hello, beautiful unicorns. Yana Kasperczak coming back to you live on this beautiful Tuesday for another story time with myself, Yana Kasperczak. And as a certified professional performance and spiritual awakening core energy coach, it has been my soul's purpose to help women, to help you get your shit together so you can break free from that mental prison that you find yourself in and build a life, a business, and or a career that you are obsessed with. And part of that is based on today's topic as well. Today's topic is why you are not finishing what you started. And it goes deeper than what we think and believe it to be. And to give you a little bit of a story on what it was like for me. Growing up, I felt like I was finishing everything that I wanted to. And yes, there was a lot of things that I started but didn't finish, but there was no attachment to them. I was able to just let them go and not create this narrative in my mind that I wasn't finishing what I started. And then little by little, especially once the kids came around, it feels like it just happened all of a sudden where there are so many things that I am now responsible of doing and completing and achieving, whether it's in my personal life, whether it's in my business or career life, whether it's with one child, with another, whether it's in the intimate relationship with my husband, or in this relationship with this friend, with that friend, with this friend, with that friend, with co-workers, with parents, with sibling, with all these different kind of relationships. And at one point in our life, it just we become aware that we have always been a person that started things but didn't finish. And we just weren't aware of this until people started pointing it out to us. Now, some people would do it in a nice, gentle way, while other people won't say anything at all, while other people will be very open and, for the lack of better words, they're blunt about it. But people are always there to let us know, if we pay attention, on what our opportunities for growth and evolution are. But some of us would see it as what we're doing wrong. And it takes experience. And what is wisdom if it's not experience? So, which means that it also takes wisdom to understand eventually, because it's not something that we're born with. It's something that we learn throughout our life, that the things that are being brought to our attention, they're not, yes, they might come across, and they often do come across as, once again, for the lack of better words, as an attack on ourselves and our character, or how we do things, or how we think, a personal attack. When in reality, it's not. It's just the other person does not know how to deliver that message to let us know, to let me know that, hey, Yana, you started a lot of different things. You started organizing, decluttering one space. You started reading a book. You started this project. You started that project. You started sanding the table. You started selling pillows online. All of these different things that you started doing, you haven't finished not even one of them. Why is that? Well, initially, and this is part of the process, is that it is challenging, if not almost impossible, to not take it personally when it comes from people that we know, like, and trust with our most vulnerable parts of ourselves. Our families, right? Or our closest friends. But if somebody else points these things out and says these things, even in the same way, we hear it in a different way, We don't take it as personally because they don't know us like the rest of the people know us. So that's why when it comes from those that are closest to us, like I said, it's almost impossible not to take it personally. But after you take it personally, you get to know about yourself and your personality, right? You get to really go in because now you're in your feels, now you're hurting. Now maybe you start going down the path of suffering with these new realizations that you're carrying in your mind, these new stories, this new found awareness about who you have been this whole entire time that you didn't fully see, and someone was in many ways brave enough to call you out on it and to point out that this is where you can improve. Could they have delivered a message in a better way? Yes. But you know what they say about don't shoot the messenger. The messenger is just passing a message, and sometimes the messages are messy. We just need to ourselves learn to not shoot the messenger. And the messenger often comes, or the message often comes through the messenger that is the closest to us, because we would actually hear those things and then much more likely to do something about it. Maybe not right away because of the pain that we're feeling, the emotional pain, and that the suffering that the mind can cause us as well, with where it takes this pain and this newfound awareness about yourself, where the bubble of I'm perfect starts to burst a little bit, a little bit, a little bit more each and every time. But the more that it bursts, the more that we're given the opportunity to get our shit together in that area of our life and learn about it. So that's why I'm talking to each and every one of you who has experienced the pain or the suffering or the internal turmoil, as some of you might have referred to it, when it comes to starting things and not finishing. Because it's there for a reason. And you're not the only one. Every single person does that. It's just some people are aware of it while others are not. And then also some that are aware, and while others that are not, they are not attaching themselves too much to the outcome, while others might be attaching themselves too much to the outcome of finishing the project and starting it. So the first thing I want to start off with that comes to mind is intention. And this is what helped me on this healing, emotional healing, and spiritual growth, spiritual awakening journey that I have been on for 8 years at this point, if not even longer than that, because anyways, so is intention. Make a list of these things that are coming up for you that you feel are important to be finished, and the things that you haven't finished. And I recommend always doing a physical list if you can, and if not yet, watch this video again and then make the physical list. So make the list, and after you make the list, go through each one and take a moment to identify what is your intention when it comes to this particular project. I'll give you an example. A simple one that many of you might have experienced, and chances are have, is reading a book. When it comes to reading a book, is your intention to read and finish and complete the book? Or is your intention to read the book to get to the knowledge that you feel like you needed to get from the book and then be done with it? Or is it just to skim through the book and get the important points and that's it? Because if your intention is to finish the book, then you might find yourself reading the whole entire book and not really taking in the information. And in the end, you feel like you didn't complete, quote unquote, the project or something that you started because you weren't really clear about your intention. And then in other cases, if your intention is to get what you needed to get from the book, which sometimes might be just from the first few pages, and then you got what you needed from the book, and you can put that comfortably and confidently, you can put that book away, knowing that you got what you needed to get from that book. Um, so that's where I would start with your intention. Taking a moment to identify what is your intention with this project, with this activity that you're doing, with whatever you started. If it is to finish, what does finish actually mean to you? Is it just to get it done and that's it? Or maybe something else? Going in a little bit deeper on what that actually means to you. Now, there are numerous reasons why, especially women, that start something but don't finish. It could come from societal expectations. It could come, or societal pressures. It could come from internalized expectations or pressures, or personal struggles, as I mentioned. It could be, there often is underlying emotional or mental or even spiritual dynamics that are at play. And because, like I said, it could be that you're not clear about the intention behind what it means to be finished with whatever it is that you're finishing. And also recognizing that you're not meant to finish everything you start. Some things you're meant to just start, and that's enough for you to learn about. It's just an experiment. And it's just an experience, and you gaining the experience, whatever you're starting was meant to give you. Not everything was meant to be followed through and chased and completed and achieved. It simply wouldn't be possible, and it wouldn't bring you happiness. It wouldn't. What would bring you happiness is you recognizing yourself in the midst of all of these things that you started and left unfinished or uncompleted. And another thing that comes to mind is integrity. And the reason why integrity comes to mind is that this is one of the reasons why we start to feel bad, is because when it comes to integrity, when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, you become a liar. You lie to yourself and you break that integrity with yourself. And we all have done it, and we all, in many ways, will continue to do that. But when it comes to these projects, you say you're going to start something and then you don't finish. So you're going to feel a sort of way, and it's not going to feel good. So another list that you can make is all these promises that you've made to yourself and to other people. If you promise to take someone on vacation because you were in a very giving mood, but the reality of the situation is that you were never intending to take them on vacation, put that on the list. Put that on the list. And that becomes your list of healing yourself and letting go of these things, of these promises that you've made to yourself and to others. And you will notice you are starting to feel better about it. Rebecca says, great example with the books. Now finished means 80% for me. Oh, beautiful, right? Identify, maybe there's a percentage that's for you that means finished 80%. And the phrase of done is better than perfect comes to mind. In many cases, it's going to be like that. If also reminding yourself, if your intention was to finish the book, and you finish the book, but you're still feeling like you didn't get what you in some way expected to get from the book, remind yourself that, number one, your intention was to finish. You did that. And also, done is better than perfect, because then the perfect intention might have been, which wasn't, was I want to finish the book and get everything that I was meant to get and understand and learn from this book, which would mean that you would be reading that book with intention and you would approach it in a different way and you would take in those lessons. It's like the visual that comes to mind, or the experience that many of you have have experienced reading books comes to mind, is, when you read through the page or a few pages and you sit there and you're like, what did I just read? I don't remember anything I've read. And sometimes you'll go back and you read it again, while other times you like, fuck it, I'm just gonna keep going. So it's normal. Number one, you weren't even there. You left. You left the building. You're like, oh my God, this is not for me. Screw this. I'm out of here. You're here on your own reading, okay? And number two, because there was no intention. Those are just the two things, the two reasons that come to mind why we would go through such a experience and feel like wasted our time and energy, that we could have done something else instead of reading these pages that now you have absolutely no recollection. And then another one that comes to mind is that whatever you were reading wasn't even meant to be for you and you weren't ready to hear it. And that's why it went whoosh right over your head. So, and then chances are you might have experienced them all, right? What else? Rebecca said, the way my lifestyle is, there is constant action, motion, and energy exchange. There is no way anything is over 100%. Yeah, because you also need that time to recharge as well. Debbie says, new concept for me, like trying on outfits, not purchasing them. Oh, that's an interesting concept, where I can relate to this one. If I feel almost like I have to buy it, or I have to buy something when I go to the store and I spend time in the store and I look through these things, I used to feel like I had to buy something and I couldn't leave empty-handed. Whereas since then, I have learned it's almost like a power move, and reminds me that I have the power and I have a choice. If I don't want to buy anything, I don't want to buy something just because I have to, or because I really, really, really want this, and I absolutely don't need it. It might be one of those things, which sometimes it is you buy it, you bring it, and then you forget about it entirely. And then Rebecca says, this is how I'm learning to trust myself again and confident by following through and showing up for myself when I say I am. Amazing. Congrats on that, and keep going, keep doing it. Rebecca also says, I often read my books as if they are a textbook. I am programmed to study books and gather information, takes notes, etc. That's one of the things that I learned, but I wasn't programmed. So that's a really great program that you have received. Studying it in a way of being able to reiterate that information and absorb that information in a way that you could then teach it as well to others. That's when I know I should not be reading. At that point is when your brain is not there, when you're no longer there anymore. It's like, oh, you're on your own. Can't waste my time. I definitely let my books call to me. And that's another approach as well. Sometimes we pick a book that we feel like we have to read or should read or need to read. And those states of I have to, I need to, I should, I must, or else, they're all catabolic and they're all draining. And we're less likely to actually read it, complete it, and get what we were meant to get out of the book, because we simply were forcing ourselves to do that and not coming from a place of, I really want to, I'm excited, and I choose to, and I get to. And when we read from that state, we take it all in. So another reason is too many responsibilities, the overwhelm of responsibilities, right? Like Rebecca, you were just saying that there's so many different things that are going on, that you're responsible for, that you're doing, that you simply can't give 100%. And that's the other part. And just recognizing that the 80% is your 100%. And there is nothing wrong with that. Later down your journey, down your life, that might change. And it often does, because as kids start growing up and maturing, you tend to have more time for yourself, with yourself. And you can do all these things 100% or maybe 90%. Whatever your intention is where it's important to follow through to your intention. What else? Also, another reason why women, especially men, of course, as well, but I work with women, so that's why I always mention women. So another reason is fear of failure. That what if I start this project, this decluttering and organizing project, or this reading a book, or this DIY project, or the creation of the business, whatever project that you're starting, the thought of what if I do it wrong? What if I fail? How am I going to be able to handle that? How will people look at me? How will people think of me? And then also the other opposite part of that. What if I'm successful? What if I'm really good at that? How will that change me? And a lot of this happens unconsciously. A fear of success, in many cases, can be scarier than fear of failure. Because fear of failure is more familiar than success. Failure is more familiar to most of us than success. Because when you fail, you know what you're gonna feel, what you're gonna go through, you know people will think. But what about when you are successful? That's why that fear of success might be scarier than the fear of failure, because it brings a lot more unknown about success. And you also unconsciously know that when you are successful, you will grow and you will change. And unconsciously, you also fear loss. Loss of the old self and everything that made you you. Feeling and fearing who you will become after you are successful. Because the world shows us who some people become when they are successful. Whether it's in the business ventures, whether it's in the family ventures, whether it's in just simple creativity in their own space. We see, but we also, just because we see certain things, we can see them in different ways, in different light, and we get to choose what success will mean and look and feel like to us. So that way we're not fearing it. That way it's not so unknown and so unfamiliar. And that's why it's important to practice. A lot of successful and powerful people in the world, they practice and in becoming who they are today. They practice in their mind. Like the athletes. Michael Jordan, for example, he would practice in his mind the shots, the games, all these different things that made him who he is. The jumps, right? And all the athletes actually do that. And there's even studies that have proven that what you're practicing in your mind that even your muscle tone improves if you are lifting weights in your mind, if you're working out these specific muscles in your mind. Now, is it going to make you look like a bodybuilder just as you're visualizing and picturing these things in your mind? Not entirely, but it will help you in the becoming of who you're working towards becoming. And then there's also perfectionism. What if I'm not perfect? What if I'm not good at whatever it is that I'm doing? And especially those girls who are good girls, who have this mindset of perfectionism and believing that if something doesn't go perfectly, they're not worth it, or it was not worth doing that at all. That it was just a waste of time, waste of energy, and then they would feel shame and guilt and embarrassment and can lock themselves in that mental prison, beating themselves up. And of course, in this case, in the previous cases, it will lead to procrastination, avoidance, or abandonment of the project or the activity or whatever it was. Another one is maybe those, oh, here's how I'll put it. You know, some of these projects that you wanted to do and you wanted to start, but maybe you started but never actually started, is the reason why you're not going back and you're not finishing completing them is because you're past them. You're beyond. You've outgrown that project or that goal. You're meant for something bigger now. You got what you needed to. And now this desire to go back and finish, it's almost like you're trying to prove something to someone, but or in a way that could also potentially be avoidance behavior or procrastinating or self-sabotaging, because you're about to start something that is more at par with where you are and with who you are, that you just want to go back to the easier thing and get that done. And while in some cases it might be helpful, in other cases it might not be. It depends on where you are, but primarily it won't be, because you're avoiding doing the very thing that initially you said you were ready to do. Rebecca says that is another reason to stick to the activities with the most desired outcome, because the positive reinforcement is inspiring. Yes, well said. Well said. For me, it's the fear of how will I fit into an already jammed day. But the truth is, eventually it becomes second nature and naturally merges into the day. Yes. And at the same time, if you weren't meant to do that, it wouldn't even fit in, no matter how much you tried to fit it. It's like a puzzle piece, right? All of you have done puzzles, right? And if you haven't, go get a puzzle and do it. And try to put, you can even do it in your mind without going to get a puzzle. But try to put 2 puzzle pieces or 3 or 4 puzzle pieces that simply don't go together. You can force them in and get them in there. But guess what happens to both of the puzzle pieces? And one especially, it gets damaged. And in most cases, it's not even reversible. You can't fix it. If that little tip from the puzzle breaks, you can't really fix that. It won't function the same way again. Because if you fix it from the top, you're affecting the actual image and the picture that it's supposed to make. If you do it at the bottom, it doesn't fix it entirely. If you glue it in between, it's still not the full piece. And sometimes this is what we tend to do, is that we take something that we feel like we must or we should or we have to do, and force ourselves to do it and complete it. Whether it's a busy day or not busy day, or busy life or not busy life, you can't force something that was not meant for you. And the reason for that is because someone gave you that to do in one way or another, and you took it upon yourself to do, but it wasn't meant to be yours to do. It's not something that you would pick on your own to do. Maybe there's a lack of guidance or lack of support when it comes to certain projects, because not everything you're meant to be doing on your own either. So look at that end. Maybe someone is supposed to be helping you and you're supposed to be doing it together, or meant to be doing it together. And the last one is the timing. Perhaps the timing is not right. And you just gotta be patient and allow the timing to be right. And when it's right, it will feel right. I'll go back to that example of the book. Some books you feel like you have to read, you should read, you need to read, I must read. But if you give yourself enough time, you would find yourself really wanting to read that book and feeling ready to read that book because now the timing is right. So, ask yourself, which one of these is resonating with you the most, with the project that is just spiraling in your mind over and over and over again? And then Rebecca says, just because we admire it doesn't mean it's part of our story. And exactly. Sometimes we choose to do some things based on admiration or expectation, but it's not meant to be for us. We're just meant to be observers or participators, but not the leaders, not taking on that project. And recognizing who are we meant to be in this puzzle and allowing ourselves to be that by letting go and shedding all these expectations that in some ways push us out of alignment and make us feel unbalanced and make us feel unworthy or not good enough. And we all carry those things until we realize that we're carrying them, and then go through the process of setting them down and say, okay, thank you, but no more. You go where you're meant to. I got it from here on. Good afternoon, Kimberly, to you as well. Rebecca says timing is everything. Yeah, it is. And I believe it needs to be reminded, because time is one of the stories that we carry. One of the challenges and struggles that we all deal with. The lack of time, to be exact. Lack of time, right? Lack of energy. I'm too tired, not today. I'm not ready, or not ready is the timing, or I don't have time, just to name a few. But when we start working on those messages, they start changing in ways that focus on the abundance and not lack. And it's a process. And Rebecca says, I'm the type that wants to know how the story ends before I read it or watch it. You want to know the ending, eh? No, I'm the type, I'm like, I don't want to know what happens. Just let me see it. Let me watch it. Let me hear it. Don't ruin it for me, type of a thing. And I've always also been the type to, I'll jump in a deep end and then realize, oh shit, I don't know how to swim. That's how I learned how to swim, by the way. Yeah. And I'm not joking. That's how I learned how to swim. I jumped off, I don't even know how old I was. I jumped off, what do you call it, the dock into the lake My parents were pretty far, they couldn't really see where we were. And I didn't know how to swim, but I learned pretty quickly. Adrenaline is a real thing. So I learned that I was capable of a lot of things when I just trusted myself. Now, I didn't try to fly because I still had some common sense. Somewhere. Common sense is learned, by the way. We are born with some common sense, but we learn common sense throughout life. So, some people would say, don't you have common sense? Well, no. Common sense is something that you learn through your experience and you know, and it becomes common, right? Common knowledge, common sense, but we're not born with a list of all the things that we're supposed to have common sense about or common knowledge. We learn as we go, as we grow, as we make mistakes, and we learn from them and really see that our mistakes are just opportunities for us in many different ways, in different areas, how we can grow and become better, and what we can learn from them and what we can do with that knowledge. So that is all that I have for you all for today. For today's story time with myself, I shared a couple of stories in there. Thank you very much to all of you being on here live with me, and those of you who will be watching on the replay as well. I shall see most of you live tomorrow on our Heal the Unicorn podcast that Bethany and I do in the Facebook group called Heal the Unicorn Emotional Healing and Spiritual Growth. And we go live at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time. So we'll see you there, or I'll see you next week once again on my personal page for another one of these story time with myself, Yana Kasperczak, where I'll share a story or two and always lessons and guidance around those stories. Have an amazing the rest of your day, and we'll see each other next time. Bye, everybody.